Hey everybody, David here, and welcome to the ASOG podcast. If you're considering building your own shop, then this is a must-listen episode. Lucas and I were joined by Dan Topel and ACA's Female Shop Owner of the Year, Tara Topel, of Topels Towing and Repair in Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Recorded live at AAPEX 2021, both Lucas and the Topels recount the struggle and challenges in navigating the complexities of putting up their own buildings. Before we get into it, make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you have it set to automatically download the latest episode. And now, here we go.
All right, David, what'd you want to talk about, buddy?
I'm tired. Are you guys tired? Yeah.
He's really tired.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I'm beat. I am absolutely beat.
It was fun.
How'd you get shopware shirts?
Fun though. Well, I'm on the advisory council, but if you ask, they'll give them to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got shopware shirts. Maybe they don't have them in 4XL.
It is a special order because we have a guy that's 3XL, so they have to do lots of extra.
I have to beg,
borrow, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All I'm saying is I didn't get a shirt. That's all I'm saying. I'm not salty. It's okay.
You're always salty. Like, you were born salty, man.
Roxanne is your girl. You got to talk to
really
Roxanne.
is.
She'll get them for you.
She really is. She's
Yeah,
awesome.
they got some cool hats, too.
I saw her just a minute ago.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. She's an awesome chick.
She is awesome.
She really is. All right, David, what you got, buddy? What you want to talk about?
Keep asking that.
Well,
I don't have
no.
anything. I never have anything. You just won Woman Shop Owner of the Year.
I did.
What does that mean?
It's a good question. What does it mean? Well, it's part of the Auto Care Council, right? And then it's a division is women in auto care. And so what do you want to know? I don't know. What does it mean?
How do they select you?
There's people can make nominations.
Okay.
So somebody nominated me. I was nominated last year also and didn't win, which is totally fine. It's always been a goal of mine to get Female Shop Owner of the Year,
Right.
but I didn't think I'd get it this soon. So it's very humbling. But so you get nominated, and then there's a committee, and they go through all of the nominations, and then they narrow it down to 2.
Right.
And then you sit through and do interviews. So I had to go online and fill a bunch of information out, and then they call, and we did a Zoom, and
Right.
they asked all kinds of questions.
That's a lot of steps.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, that is intense.
It
Did you
is.
have to go through all that when you won your Ratchet and Wrench thing? Or you were runner-up. You lost, didn't you?
Yeah.
I don't like talking to the
Thanks
losers.
for bringing it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's okay. It's okay. Here's the thing: is you've got to remember, like, you know why you never see David winning anything? It's because he specifically tells them, "I don't want that.
Oh.
I have to do things. No, I'm not doing that."
Right.
Don't
No,
you?
no, nobody would nominate me. You kidding me?
I mean, after all, you named your business Done with Auto Repair.
Done with it. I did.
Did you?
Just done.
Done.
It's done.
He'll sell it for half a honey bun. You need a shop in Kansas City?
You guys should buy a shop in Kansas City. I'm looking at you. You look interested.
Daniel looks
You
like
thinking
he's
about
just
it?
ready to go to bed.
You'd think you'd be used to us being the tow truck driver.
Yeah, but this is
No.
different. This is
I
different.
don't drink and be tired. I'm just
Tired.
tired.
Yeah.
And I happen to be a professional at it. So.
I would say we should go get Anthony Mercury and ask him his professional drinker story. But the poor dude is so tired of hearing me.
I know. He has to tell it every single time we see it. And he sees Lucas. He's got to tell the story all over again. And he, like this last time, he rolled his eyes. He's like, I don't have to tell the story again. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell the story again. And we heard the story all over again. Bad for the guy.
Yeah. Poor guy. So you guys are building a shop, and me and you connected the other day because I read an article that was written about you, about the shop, and about what you went through.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us about the story and the process.
For those of us who don't read.
They don't read. Right. It was a pretty lengthy article.
Listen, this dude sent them a letter, and all it said was TLDR, okay?
I was waiting for the audio version. Somebody to just read it to me
Cliff
in a nice,
notes?
smoothing. No, not. I need a nice, soothing voice.
Oh.
Lots of little clicks and stuff like that, and just they can read it to me, and I'll listen to it.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, we started about 2 years ago working with our general contractor, getting everything together. We were hoping to keep our original buildings, to pay homage to Dan's dad that started it back in 1948, Cliff. And so we went through the process. Yeah, we were hoping to keep the old one. The new shop was getting a bit too much of a snow load on the old building. So we said, that's fine. But then we want it to look the same as what it did in 1948. So the architect drew it up for us. So it turned out great. The banking process seemed fine. It almost seemed easier than I thought it was going to be. This was before COVID, or just right before. And so we knew we were doing it. Unfortunately, his dad actually got really sick and ended up passing away. He was 96 years old, though.
Oh,
Wow.
Amazing life. He worked until he was 94.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And so he passed away January, just before everything kind of went crazy with COVID. And then we started on the process and everything of designing it and the whole banking thing. We had 3 different banks we were working with and 2 approvals. So it's fine. And then last fall, we demoed the building, the old building. We were in a temporary location, which has been a godsend. And Dan actually went on a bucket list hunting trip out to Colorado for elk. And I got a call. So he left on Wednesday. I got a call on Friday that said the appraisal's super low, which we knew, but the appraiser's not changing it.
Oh, man.
And he had very wrong materials that he used, the comps that he used were like little podunk shops up north.
Right.
And it just, there was so many things wrong. They wrote a rebuttal. It didn't work. And they, so he said, we can get another appraisal, but it would have to be so crazy high, and they're going to take the middle of it.
Oh, man.
So we lost our financing.
Oh, no.
And the old building was down. I found out on Friday. He didn't get home until a week later. So I just held on because there's no way I was telling him that when he was out there. And so then our quest started for getting reapproval, but then it was during COVID.
Right.
And we had people were like, somebody said, we can have an appraisal done for you in 2 weeks. And because the other bank that we had approved us said it was going to be another month. And we're like, another month? We don't have another month. Like, we got to go, And then it took a year. It took a whole year. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I kind of connect with that. And the reason I said something is because we're going through something very, very similar. And so much of this story, the reason I relate to it is because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know about this process until you get right in the middle of it. And just like tearing down the other building, you're probably sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I need to do this. I need to get moving. We need to get it down so we can go. And then what happens? Things change dramatically overnight. All of a sudden, something changes.
Yep.
And I look at
how did you guys generate revenue?
We're in a temporary location.
Okay.
So we moved our hoists over and actually just added another hoist. It's more efficient space than what we had. So it's not bad. We're already able to grow. And
How far was it from the original building?
Maybe a mile and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was the idea you already own the land that you were on, and so what, did you just lease the different locations? You can move everything over while they built the new building.
Right. We're just
That's
renting.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very fortunate. One of our clients actually had it. He was an electrician. And so it's got a really nice, huge office and really works out well. It's just one door, but the way that the shop is laid out, it works out really well.
So long story short, now you finally work your way through all this. And obviously that's got to be super stressful for both of you. I mean, like, that's intense. What did you take from that? Like, did she just take it all and run with it and you're just kind of back,
Initially, yeah. I mean, it seemed like the process moved very fast.
Right.
Like, they sat us down. They're like, "Hey, tell us about your dream shop."
Right.
Because initially, I'm like, you know what? We just want to do an addition. That's all. Like, we just need a little more space to make some more money.
Right.
You know, we're stuck in this little shop built in 1948.
Right.
You know, let's add on. You know, and it went from a, $250,000 or not quarter, $750,000 to $1 million shop, and then all of a sudden it grew to a $1.6 million shop, and then all of a sudden it turned into a $2.6 million. You know, it's just like
just steamrolls out of the way.
It just avalanched down. You know, into this gigantic. It's a beautiful facility,
right?
But it doesn't even seem real.
Yeah.
When you start talking about money of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're a small business. We're not a car dealer. You know, we're not.
Right.
We're not big. So.
Right.
I am a chew on it kind of guy. I like when I make it just, it takes me half an hour to figure out which soda I want to get. You know what I mean? So to start spending all this kind of money and just trying to figure all this out in such a short amount of time.
Right.
It was tough on me.
Yeah.
And then
I believe it.
And then I added just the uncertainty of COVID-19.
Right.
He really was saying the whole time, like, Tara, we do not have a check. Like, we should not be doing this yet. And I was like, oh no, it'll be fine. We have a backup finance and no, it'll be fine. And his intuition was correct, which it happens way more than.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it just about happened to us. So long story short, what happened in mine is that, first of all, I just needed enough for the floor, right? I had other money put back to build the building. I didn't need a lot of money. I need $250,000. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, I went to the bank and I said, hey, I want a business loan. I don't want a construction loan. I want a business loan. You already have first on the property because it was my dad's property. You have first on the property. Its value is $660,000 just by itself. The way it sits at 6 acres, $100,000 an acre where it's at. You got plenty of equity, right? Just, hold that as collateral. We'll do $250,000. Here's the P&L. We've got plenty of cash flow to do this. I need a little bit of equipment. I want to put new equipment in. Here's how much I need for the equipment. And they said, okay. 2 months later, they come back and they say, hey, tell you what, we can go ahead and we can roll that other loan into it. You can pay that. That'll be part of the purchase of the property from your father. We'll just put it all in one. Cool, whatever. They never said anything about the fact that when they did that, they changed it to a construction loan. And so all overnight, everything changed. And then they got the approvals. They gave us part of the money for the equipment. So I said, okay, cool. We'll go ahead and pay for the equipment now. And then we'll just have that because it's hard to get equipment right now. It's really hard to do that. And then the next part of the process just drug on. And David sit there and listened to me like just ream this dude. It got to because he would tell me something and then it would completely change.
Right.
And I finally said, look, you're the effing professional. It's your job to lead me and guide me because I don't know these things.
Right.
And really what it boiled down to was they came back and they said, you need flood insurance. I'm like, okay, cool. It's out of the flood zone. We're going to get what's called a Lomar F that says that it's been filled. It's out of the flood zone. It's nothing you have to worry about. But I understand because the law says I have to have it right now until we get that. Cool. I can deal with that. So I go and I start the process of that, but it's going to take time. I said, tell you what, let's just go ahead and buy flood insurance and have it over and done with. So it's supposed to close on 1 week, and then it turns into the next week, and it turns into the next week, and it turns into the next week. The attorney's calling saying, I think your banker's an idiot. I don't think they know what they're doing. And they're sending us paperwork that we've never seen before. They're asking us how to do it. Mm-hmm. And my confidence is going like in the dumps, man. Like, what is going on here? Long story short, this just continues, and it's like steamrolling at this point. And the insurance lady calls, and she said, Lucas, she said, I have told them over and over again that the federal flood insurance laws are going to change on October 1st. If you do not have this done, we're going to have a real problem. And I said, okay, well, we were supposed to close this week anyway. Let's see if we can push it. And he says, yeah, it won't be a problem. We'll get it closed. And he's in communication. He doesn't know what address to put on it. I'm saying the flood insurance people don't need an address. It literally says on there if it has the PIN for the property because it insures the entire property. It doesn't matter if that's the tax ID for that property or the parcel ID. That's all they need. So, okay, cool. All right, get that through. And it's like they're asking all these questions. And I'm starting to wonder, like, wait a minute, you should have asked these questions months ago. Right. Why are you asking now?
Right.
Then he comes up and he says, "Are you sure you're going to have enough money? Because we don't know that we feel comfortable doing this with only getting $250,000. We'd be more comfortable doing $1 million or $2 million." And I'm like, I'm sitting here saying I'm going to do something that I can pay back in 6 months or a year.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're saying that you're not willing to, something just isn't adding up.
Right.
So he communicates all the way up to the day that the insurance deadline is going to be, and then he stops communicating that day. Won't communicate, won't call back, won't do anything, won't text, won't email. Can't get a hold of him because guess what? They don't have it together and they don't know how to do it. So guess what Lucas does? Lucas buys $10,000 of non-refundable flood insurance. Yeah. And it was $2,500 in refundable. And that was the only way I was going to get the loan. All right, whatever. 2 days later, he says, "Oh man, I don't know if this is going to work." And I'm like, if this wasn't going to work, you damn well should have told me then.
Right.
And the whole time I'm burning capital because I'm expecting this loan to go through. We're going to get this money.
He's cash flowing equipment, and like he's going out. I'm going to rent this thing for a week, and it's going to cost $7,000. And I'm going to start grading this, and I'm moving dirt.
I'm buying the retaining wall block.
He's thinking the cash is going to come in, and he's like, "Well, okay, I'll just out of pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars."
Yeah.
We did too.
Yeah.
Thank God for that idle loan.
And that's what saved me.
Yeah.
That's exactly,
I saw that. Somebody commented, and I thought, he did the same thing we did.
That's what saved me, and that's what kept me going, because then I'm asking him, I'm saying, he pops up, and all of a sudden, like 2 days before closing, he drops that he changed it to a construction loan. Nothing. Nowhere did he say anything about that, right? I've never seen terms on this. The attorney calls that's doing the closing and says, "I just think you should know this is the most aggressive securities package I've ever seen. They basically want you to sign your life away. They want your life insurance. They want your wife's life insurance. They want your dad's life insurance. And I'm like, hold up. Like, there's got to be a reason they're being like this. You know, why are they so... It turns out they've never done any building loans. They've only done equipment loans. The bank had just been bought out. All of this BS, you know. And so then it comes down to a draw, and he's like, we can't. So we close on the loan, right? And he's like, well, we can't actually give you any draws.
No, they couldn't give you a draw on anything you'd already spent money on.
Yeah.
We did the exact same thing.
Because I asked.
They want to see new receipts.
Right.
Yes.
I asked.
They have to pay it, they said.
Right. I asked, and I said, now, am I going to be able to be reimbursed for this, and this? Because you just asked me to spend $60,000 to do what I need to do to get the loan. You made me pay for the appraisal up front.
Right.
And I mean, the appraisal, just like you guys.
Soft cost.
It was a nightmare to get through our appraisal.
Right.
The architect gives them, or the engineer gives them the price and says, here's what it's going to cost to build this building. Yeah. And they come back and there's no way that's right. Okay. We need a list of everything you're going to do to build this building. That's your job.
Right.
Idiot.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do.
Right.
Why am I paying for it? If I'm going to sit down and make an Excel spreadsheet with everything we're going to do, why don't you just freaking give me the money and I'll just do it?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been one thing right after another.
Seriously. I think the third appraisal that ended up getting done, I told him what comps he needed to use. I was like, I'm not leaving it in anybody's hands to try to decide anything. I'm like, what we are building is comparable to this dealership over here, and that's what you need to compare it to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, sure, you look back and all those things you needed to learn, and for us, there was not anywhere near enough accountability on our side. Like, I'm like, this is just how it works. Like, if I was going to go through it again, they'd be getting a phone call every day. I'd be like, when is that going to be done by? Yeah. There would be major accountability on their part to know that it was getting taken care of the way it's supposed to, because there are so many similar things that we had to go through.
Exactly.
A lot of his story, though, in my opinion, was the bank changing hands, and then the underwriters, which is who his banker, the person that he had contact with, didn't know who the underwriter was. The underwriter had no relationship with Lucas.
They weren't comfortable.
Yeah, and so they're like, no, we want this, and we want this. And so he turned into a middleman. Yeah. And he's going back and asking him for more, He's getting reamed by him and by the underwriters. And the underwriters are like, look, you want the cash? This is what we need.
Yeah.
The underwriters weren't well-versed in this type of setup. And what he wanted made sense, like, from a logical standpoint, but that's not what the underwriters are like. Well, we don't have that kind of loan package.
Right.
So for us to do this, we need to put together a loan package that's within our portfolio. Otherwise, we're not touching it. And to do that, we need all of this other garbage. So do you think, like, because this sounds like a nightmare, I don't think I'll ever even attempt to do anything like that. I'll just find some dilapidated building and slide in there and call it good. Not that doesn't turn into a nightmare on its own. It does. So the lesson, kids, is don't open a shop. Anyway, so so is it start with a bank that you know in full confidence they have either a package that you know fits what you're wanting to do, or they can at least show you while you're shopping for a banker that, yeah, look, we did this loan, got that building built, this is what we used to get there. It almost seems like you have to go to 15 different banks and ask them 1,000 different questions and go, I want to make sure that I'm not going to get hosed here halfway through this process a year later.
I just don't think there's any loyalty in banking. Oh, no. Bankers, and like you said, you're right. The underwriters could have switched, and then so from what they started, we ended up meeting up with a guy that goes to our church and is in my Rotary group right towards the end. Like I too was done. Had we not, we had already we had to pull the trigger on the building itself because otherwise we would have had to wait 2 years to get the steel in order to get our building. So we did that back in January, and had we not done that, I would have said, just stop. Like, I'll stay here temporarily for a while or buy this building if I have to. But, so he came in and he said too, he's like, Tara, something changed there.
Yeah.
And this is not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So I was very ready also just to stop, because if his bank would have approved us, I would have way rather, because there was a relationship then, but there was no relationship on the other side. And we had a huge nightmare too once they finally got to the point that they had gave us, okay, we have approval. Now here are all the things. And I went through all the things, and I was literally like uploading them saying like, if this bank ever listens, this isn't good. I hope they don't.
I'm going to forward it to all the banks.
I'm going to forward it to my bank for sure.
Right. But it was just like I had filled out. I had literally, it's like 5A1 or whatever it might be, right? That I had to. So I saved it, uploaded it, 5A1, life insurance, whatever it was that they were asking for, right? So I went through, and the whole time I'm working with my packager and I'm saying, okay, so here are the things that I don't have yet, and here are the questions that I have. And then I wouldn't hear anything back.
Yeah.
So
radio silence.
So here's the information, and here's still the question. And again, here are my questions. Nothing back. And I was on my way. My daughter and I were driving out to Maine. She was moving out there. And I got an email that said, like, sorry, we know you probably answered some of these things already, but here we have these questions. So I answered the questions, but attached to it was all of the questions that I had already answered that were in their drive.
Yeah.
And now I can't even communicate with my packager because she's out for another week and a half. And I have this totally different person that I don't even have contact information for. My banker wasn't there. And I was just like, what in the world? Clearly, they're not asking for all of those things again. I gave them access to their own drive.
Yeah.
With the information in it. I said, all the answers are right there.
Right.
And I just couldn't believe it. So I had to go through and answer everything all over again. And you're right. And they had said, like, we were supposed to close within days of that.
Yeah.
They were ready to close.
They hadn't even started the process.
No.
Right. And see, that's what, I look back at this and I can't help but say, like, it was a very positive lesson for me because, we had a couple things happen over the span of the last year. Shannon, who is our service advisor's dad, got really sick, got put in the hospital. And so we're talking to Shannon. I'm talking about what they're going through. And he said, I've never felt so helpless because the doctors won't give us information. And he said, it's not that, hey, we don't know. It's that, the doctor will be in soon. And the doctor never comes. And this will happen. But that never happens, right? And so same thing with this. I need information. My livelihood is on the line. I'm begging for it, right? And I got an email today that he's emailed and he wants more insurance information because they can't give us any more money until they know that the building's insured, and there is no building to insure. And they want to insure contents because they gave us a loan for equipment. The equipment is not even bought yet. The check is not even cashed yet, but they want insurance on it. So long story short, I think looking back at this from a different perspective, it really spoke to me saying, as a professional, I have to communicate, I have to provide information, I have to guide, I have to educate. Mm-hmm. That's my job as a professional. Mm-hmm. And I think it is so sad that these supposed professionals that charge way more than what we do in our field aren't being professionals. They're not doing a effing job.
Right.
Right? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's the extent of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just cannot believe that they would not communicate better, that they wouldn't help you through the process, you know?
I think it really turned around for us, too, when we got a hold of one of the senior advisors at the bank. And I just started CCing him on everything.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of them know. I think the communication breakdown is terrible. And I'm sure COVID gave them all kinds of things to have to, deal with that they never did before. Yeah. And it's uncharted territory for everybody. But you're right. We had to figure it out in our businesses, right? You had to find a way and make it work. Yep. And it just doesn't, I just don't think they have to do that as much.
You don't have to name the bank, but was it a large national chain or was it a small community bank?
Somewhere in between.
Really? Mm-hmm. Regional?
Yeah. It isn't, right. Me. So it wasn't our local bank and it wasn't like a, really big, everybody knows it bank either.
Right.
A little more regional.
Yeah. I was in the exact same spot. And I was eating lunch at a local restaurant as all this is going down. And a lady and her husband are sitting next to me and I can tell they're frustrated. I'm frustrated. All this is happening at this exact time. And they said, well, we're up here looking for rock to put on the side of our new house. And it's just been one thing after another. And I said, I'm right there with you. And she said, well, sweetie, I'm actually a loan officer at a bank. I'm a commercial loan officer. And she said, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. And I said, what's that? And she said, I work for a big bank. She said, there's something very important before you work with a loan officer that you need to know. And I said, what's that? She said, look at their mortgage officer number. And she said, it will tell you their ID number. She said, if it is a low number, I think that's what she said. If it's a low number, they are brand new.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Staffing is staffing. It's like, hey, you're now a loan officer. You passed the test. Go start doing loans. You have no idea what they're doing, right. And it does come down to interviewing. My wife works for the Federal Reserve, and she talks about all of the work that they put in to try to make sure that especially smaller community banks are loaning out money to businesses, locally owned businesses, to keep the economy moving. It's like, we need to keep pumping money out. And I don't know, I hope she listens to this and listens to how incompetent some of these banks are, that they make it so difficult.
Well, I mean, think about how hard it is to do business anyway. And if we weren't performing at the level we were performing at, it could have tanked us, right? Like if the shop wasn't performing, we would have been in deep shit.
Right.
I mean, it would have been bad because we couldn't have sustained what was going on. Mm-hmm. And the thing is like, I put my faith in this guy. And I'm like, hey, are you sure you can give me draws? Are you sure this is going to close? Are you sure that? Yeah. So I spent my money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't have some reserve, if I didn't have income coming in, boys, that would have tanked us.
Yep.
Just like that. We wouldn't have been eating. We'd have been doing something different, So.
Yeah.
So don't open a shop.
Don't open a shop.
Don't trust bankers. What else can we learn here?
Don't stay out too late.
What are you talking about? Y'all turned in at like 9 o'clock last night, right?
What?
Not according to my watch.
Dan's over here like...
going back to your question about pre-qualifying a bank before you go with them, we did work with another bank that we couldn't quite come to terms with the loan terms, but they had a specific division in their bank for auto repair shops and car dealerships.
Really?
Yes, and honestly, I kind of wish we would have went with that bank.
Yeah.
The loan wasn't as favorable financially.
Right.
It didn't look as good.
But see, that speaks to their incompetence. It's like, why didn't they sell their services and go, we do these loans all day. Like, this is what we do. You're going with Podunk Bank B. Did you ask them how many of these loans they do? And, that was on them. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah,
you don't know. Like, you're just looking at numbers on a sheet going, They have better terms over there. Well, they don't know what they're doing. And they didn't sell you on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was really like what's called the bank we are with now, Bank 1. And Bank 2 wasn't as good, but very communicative. Tar was answering questions with them for quite a while, like every other day. And what Bank 1 was, we never talked to him for 2 months?
They came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
With an
we gave
approval.
them all our information and didn't hear anything. Was thinking, okay, well, nothing's happening with that bank.
Right.
The bank number 2 was literally going to fly. I won't say what state it.
Well, whatever. Yeah,
we're going to fly from South Carolina up to Wisconsin just to look at our empty lot.
Yeah.
And to meet with us
And to
because
meet
it's
with us,
more about a
Because
relationship.
they wanted to meet us. They're going to fly 3 guys across the country to come meet us.
Yeah.
Right.
And that actually spoke volumes to me. And then all of a
Definitely.
sudden, out of the blue, the next day, this other Bank 1 calls up and goes, yeah, we're good to go.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're like, wow, really? Like, and then it just kind of like, well, we have an approval, and this other bank, the terms aren't as good.
And they're going to have to start brand new right now.
Yeah. But turns out all the questions we answered to Bank 2 the whole time, they had all that information. The other bank that just said, okay, we'll take you on, they didn't have any information. So then we spent 6 months
Right.
answering the same questions we probably already had given to bank number 2.
Yeah.
I think we would have a building half erected had
Right.
we gone with bank 2.
Well, and you know, so I'm in, you know, so much of this sounds so similar. And I mean, that really has to say something because we're in completely different parts of the country. And for that to happen to both of us, I mean, just out of nowhere, that means it's happening to a lot of other people too.
I think so too.
We're not unique in that way. And so, you know, I've got a friend who used to work at this bank. And long story short, I reached out to him and I said, hey, Garrett, tell me what to do here. Right. We had planned on using him, but because they held first on the property and the property had so much value, if I bought the property from my dad, there's tax implications. And my dad would just rather
Not deal
like,
with it, yeah.
you know, I'll gift it, I'll do something else, but I don't want to give Uncle Sam anything. And so long story short, you know, Garrett's like, Lucas, he's like, man, you're in the middle of this. I'm really concerned. And I said, why are you concerned? He said, they've not disclosed any fees to you. They've not disclosed anything except for the payment and how much money you're getting. They've not disclosed what type of loan it is. They've not disclosed what type of draw it is. And that's when I'm starting to think like, hold up. You know, the questions that my loan officer should have been saying, hey, here's some things you need to think about. Here's what this is going to look like. Here's, you know, and like if I refinance with them, there is no prepayment penalty. If I don't refinance with them, if I want to move the loan somewhere else and I pay it off early, it is a $25,000 flat rate fine
Right.
from day one, until the very end of the term, right? $25,000 all the way to the end of the term if I want to pay it off before.
I think we have 3 years. But similar, right.
5
Those
years.
are
Yeah,
5
5
years, right. But those are the kind of questions. And how would you know to ask those questions,
Yeah, you
right?
don't.
Is that kind of what our bottom line is unless you talk to somebody who's gone through what we've gone through,
Right.
then now we can say,
Well, that's
here's
what-
the questions you need to ask. But who would we have asked those questions to?
Right.
Well, that's what he's saying. Like that was the banker's responsibility to guide you,
Right.
Like to educate you. Like, hey, we're gonna hold your hand through this process because you've never done this. I do these constantly.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. And you know, like I'm thinking back. How did I choose my bank? Well, they were conveniently located, and that's it. Nothing else. Like I didn't. You know, everybody has a business checking and personal checking accounts, and they have ATM access and debit cards and stuff like that. But I don't think I ever went in there and said, do you deal with automotive repair shops? Do you know what type of business it is? Do you see these type of transactions? What kind of products do you have in case, you know, thinking long term, in 3 to 5 years, I'm going to want to build a building. Well, you know, 3 to 5 years before that is when you want to start the relationship with the banker, right? So when you're choosing a bank for just something as simple as a checking account, having a 3 to 5 year history where they know your business, they see the transactions coming through, they know you're making money, you know, you have a good reserves with them, and they do the type of loans you're going to need down the road. And how often is that discussed? Well, the answer is never. I don't think I've ever seen anybody on ASOG ask, how do I best choose a bank?
Right.
No, of course not. And I think that I think it speaks to the need for professionalism, right? In all trades, right? Ours, theirs.
Yeah, we're not going to force that. Like, there's nothing
No,
you
of
can
course
do
not.
about that. And they're going through, like, my local bank. I love the way they do business. If they change, I'm just, I don't know what I'll do. I'll freak out. Just the way they process transactions. My wife was telling me that they're going to be pushing an initiative through, because apparently our banking system is like very antiquated, the way they process payments. And he's like, and she goes, we're going to be able to instantly process payments. I mean, instant. The banks, once you pay for something, the money's out of your account instantly. The money goes into their account instant. As soon as you swipe, as soon as you whatever. I'm like, instant? It's just like weekends? 2 a.m? She's like, yeah, 2 a.m. And my first bank, I have some reserves with them, but otherwise I don't use them. And one of the reasons I don't use them is, whenever the transaction comes through is when the money comes out of the account. And I don't want to use that as my AAPEX account. I need some consistency. I want to see those pending transactions. I want to know, because I try not to tie anything with EFT. I try to process everything through credit card, but I do have some transactions that go through EFT. But there's not a lot of money in that AAPEX account. It's cycling through. It's just the way I do my banking. It's weird. But I don't have a lot of money in my AAPEX account. So if all of a sudden a large transaction comes through and I'm not watching for it, and that first bank will not let you go in the negative ever without hitting you with fees. Mm-hmm. Where the second bank, they'll give you till the end of the day, till 6 p.m.
Right.
And you can, I think it's actually 8 p.m. Central Time to move the money in. Well, okay, fine. No problem. And all I've got it doesn't matter how much money you have in these other accounts. You may have tens of thousands of dollars in these other accounts. But if this one account goes negative, boop, fee. Okay, well, I can't do business like that.
Right.
So I moved all of my stuff to the second bank, and she's telling me, yeah, we're going to move. So I don't know. I went off on a tangent.
Well,
you're getting into treasury too. So that's another thing is like, what does a treasury look like? That was one of the conversations that we had with the first bank that had approved us that we were supposed to get going forward with. And I had like almost an hour-long meeting with their treasury area. And she's like, here's what you do. Here's what you don't do. What are your needs? How you currently work and operate? How are you paying your bills? How many checks are you writing? All of those things. And so I think that those are more of those questions. Maybe that's just what we're getting to is, what's your treasury management look like?
Well, so you're right, David. And you say that's their job, but you can't force it. Right. So if we can't force it, what do we do? Well, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's what we were talking about. So we went off on a tangent.
Full circle.
But everybody left. Like I go to my local bank, and all of a sudden,
number 2.
This is the original story. Everybody's gone. Everybody.
Yeah.
All of the tellers, all the managers, everybody. Completely new staff. All of a sudden, I used to just roll up, and I do a lot of withdrawals, cash withdrawals. And I would pull up and I would just write the little slip, throw it in there. They knew my van. They knew my face. I never got out of the car. And they would just, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I don't write checks ever. So if I can't pay by credit card like my rent, I pay by cash. That's just the way I do. And so I would roll up there and, I need $3,500. Dunk. All of a sudden they're like, oh, you can't do that in the drive-thru. You need to come in. I do? Yeah. It's just overnight.
Just
I gotta get out of the van. I don't want to get out of the van. I come in and I look around. Everybody's gone. I'm like, you got to be flipping kidding me.
Well, I mean, look. So we can't control that. We can't control that they aren't willing to educate us. So if let's say we're gonna go and we're gonna finance a shop. I think the first thing is Rick always fussed at me when I first started as a client of his. He always said, my biggest challenge with you is getting you to slow the F down. Slow down. Stop making decisions right now. Take a deep breath and let's slow down. and so I am bullheaded, right? Like when I'm on a mission to do something, by God, I'm gonna get it done. And
you should watch him walk. It's a nightmare.
David.
It's a nightmare. We're going here. pew, 100 miles an hour.
I stop, and here he comes. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I'm out of breath. I didn't realize you were that much shorter. I'm sorry.
So this last time, I'm much shorter. My legs are just flying, trying to keep up. You're just taking strides.
But long story short, so I am really bad to try and take something. I'm going to force this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to go with this. We're going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And I think that taking a few minutes to slow down and educate yourself, because you can't trust them to educate you. You need maybe an advocate, maybe find somebody that does just that, that will help you with it, will answer some questions, will give you some direction, a friend, a colleague, something, right? And I think it really comes down to being a technician, being a service writer is not the same job as being a business owner. When you become a business owner, your role is to protect the business from these situations. And that's what I learned, is that I have to know how to navigate these things. In the same respect, I think it's terribly sad that they're so unprofessional that they can't do their jobs. I mean, that is what they're paid to do. That's what I'm paying them for.
You see that in a lot of things, though. Like how often, what is more common is somebody getting on ASOG and talking about how, part of their shop burnt down. And then they call the insurance company and they're like, well, you didn't have any coverage for this. Yeah. Then they call their agent. They're like, what happened? Well, like, you didn't ask for that. I didn't know I needed it. I assumed, and like that was the insurance agent's fault for not guiding and teaching and saying, this is the way we need to do things, and you need to have coverage for this, and let me do a walk around of your shop and show me what you want to have covered, and what happens when this catches on fire, or somebody runs into the corner of the building, or whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've told the story that when my insurance agent came and looked at the building, he said, so you got about $75,000 worth of tools, and I'm like, huh? Not quite. And he's like, you got more than $75,000 worth of tools that are not attached. And I'm like, dude, I've probably got like 560, 600,000, maybe more just in my tools, not counting their stuff. Like if I had to replace every
500,000, I guess brand new.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like between toolboxes, between scan tools, between alignment machine, between, right? The things that aren't bolted down, like they add up quick. Yeah. So next thing you know, man, you've got a fortune and stuff, and they don't recognize that. Yeah. So, I mean, as an owner, you have responsibility to know certain things, and they have responsibility, and maybe we need to learn to ask better questions. Would you do it again?
Build?
Ask you when you're done?
Yeah, right. No, I think that's going to be even more difficult. Like, I don't think this isn't going to get any easier, right? Yeah. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But if it was easy, everybody would do it.
That's true.
And we just got to a point where, I just felt like we were breaking even more regularly and not profiting. And I thought I could go work somewhere else and make a lot more money and have a lot less headaches.
Yeah.
So either we're going to go big or we're going to be done.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go big and see how it goes. He's a little bit older than I am, not a ton, but he's starting to think a little bit more like towards the ending of things where I'm like, we got plenty of time.
So he's 35, you're 25.
Right.
I mean, Daniel, you can't retire that early, brother.
I don't have any quarters in my pocket.
I am 25. This is what the towing industry does.
Is it Richard Campbell? Richard Campbell in ASOG. Every time somebody says something about towing, I'll post a question. I'll just tag Richard. Say, hey, Richard, how do you make $1 million towing cars? He said, you start. That's exactly right. You're probably going to need more than $2 million at this point.
So your plan isn't to work till you're 94 like your dad?
If my body will let me, but it won't. I can't even walk around AAPEX without my knees hurting today.
He didn't take his medicine this morning, his pain.
Yeah, but that's
relievers.
Not like, you don't have to tow cars till you're 94.
I know, but my dad did till he was almost 90.
Wow, that's crazy.
Climbing in and out of big trucks, not 1 tons. He was
big
2-ton trucks.
Okay, yep. So he was a freak of nature. Most people. He
probably ate like cigarette and bacon sandwiches as a kid. Those Depression era guys
and eggs.
They were tough, man.
Yeah,
they were different. Yeah, they were a different breed.
They really were. They talk about that in the shop all the time, especially the guys that were in World War II, the guys who really went through something different. Mm-hmm. They had a different life. They had a different appreciation of what it was that we have right now, because they had seen something far worse than what we had ever seen.
We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2 years ago. We turned into the humans from WALL-E. 2
Yes,
Seriously.
we really have.
That's what we
Yep.
turned into.
It is so true.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
My grandpa lost his farm right during the start of the Depression. My dad, he said he lived in a house that in the wintertime there would be snow on his blanket when he'd wake up in the morning.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's the kind of house he had to grow up in as a kid. And then they just worked.
Yeah.
And he told me when I was young, wherever you can make money, do it.
Yeah.
If rake someone's lawn, just we're in the automotive industry. Until we kind of diversified, when I grew up, we fixed walk behind lawnmowers all the way to semi tractors.
Right.
Like we did everything.
Yeah.
And now we've kind of specialized just because you kind of got to do that nowadays. You can't be everything to everybody. But,
Yeah.
I think we've gotten smarter too. We watched our parents do all that, and our kids did too. They don't want to do that anymore. That's why it's so hard to find help, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's working part-time jobs on top of their full-time jobs.
Exactly.
Nobody really?
No. And what's interesting is talking about the Depression era, right? I always laugh at my parents, and I always laughed at my grandparents because my grandmother would save all the country crock containers. And I'm like, why do you do that? And she's like, until you realize what it's like not to have.
I still do that.
They're
good leftover containers.
But I know, but think about it. We were taught
but
that from generation to generation to generation. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Yeah,
that's where
Dan's
that
mom
came
still
from.
cuts open her toothpaste and she'll smear out
Yeah.
whatever is left.
Okay, I don't do that.
No joke.
But bacon grease, I say that.
So does
The
Dan.
bacon grease, because you can cook pancakes with bacon grease.
and collard greens and ghost peppers.
Did I tell that on the podcast already? No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I did it at dinner.
Oh, did you?
I love collard greens, so I made this massive pot of collard greens right before we left. I was going to do fried chicken, collard greens, and coleslaw. And so I buy the collard greens, and I get 3 ham hocks, and I had pork belly. I sliced up the pork belly or chopped it up, threw it in there, browned it on the bottom, then deglazed the pan and threw the onions and the garlic, and then the collard green. I'm like, man, this is going to be so good. And I have a ghost pepper plant in my backyard. And I get 3 little ghost peppers. 3. I mean, this pot's this tall, okay? It's massive.
Stock pot.
Yeah, yes, that's what it is. It's a stock pot. And I'm like, 3 little ghost peppers, it's fine. I'd already had them in something else, and it didn't make it that hot. I'm like, and I had given some to my tech, who just picked them up and was like, it's like, these aren't that hot. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So I sliced 3 little ghost peppers up. They're only like this big, and I threw them in the stock pot because you want a little bit of a kick. And I let them cook. 6 hours later, I tried the.
And you forgot the part about forgetting to wash your hands.
Oh,
no.
I had washed my hand. That should have been the first indicator. I had just kind of rinsed your hands off, and I rubbed my eye.
And we start getting text messages, man.
And I'm like, this burns. I'm like, what in the hell? It feels like an intense sunburn, like all up and down your face.
Radiating.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
no, like it feels like like you're really intense sunburn. You're like, what the crap? And so you start scrubbing your hands, just washing your face. Anyway, so 6 hours later, I go in and I taste the broth, and oh man, it's just flaming hot. And I'm like, I can't feed like my entire family's wimps. Like they can't. I thought it was okay. I'm like, it's hot, but it's good. I can't feed it to my kids. I can't feed it to my wife, my father. Nobody's gonna eat this. And I have this pot. It's sitting at home. It's this entire pot full of collard greens, completely inedible for everybody but myself because of 3 stupid ghost peppers. Never trust a ghost pepper.
Never.
Take a taste of it first before you throw it in something. Ruin the
And don't
entire
touch your
pot.
eye.
Yeah, never touch your eyes. Never touch
I have
anything.
read that. Like you get on YouTube and they're like, well, you got to wear gloves, and they're making a big show of it. And so I had stopped wearing gloves or anything like that. I was just grabbing them off the plant, just pick into the pot or into the little bowl there and stick them in the fridge until you need them. And I hadn't experienced any of it. I have no idea. I got 1 or 2 that were releasing a massive amount of oil or something.
I've heard it's equally as important if you're a man to not
Go to the bathroom.
do that.
Yeah, but that's true. Like if you get enough of it on your hands, like my hands are super callous, so I just didn't feel it on my hands.
I mean,
but if I had rubbed
the problem
anything else, my head, my back,
most
it
people
would have
wash their
started burning.
hands before they go to the bathroom. Mechanics wash or after they go to the
Yeah,
bathroom.
mechanics wash before, yeah.
Well, so I think I've got one closing thought on this.
Yeah.
You'll hear us talk on the show a lot.
Have we been going that long?
No, we were sitting here talking bad about you for a while.
Well, you started streaming with 2 minutes in.
I am a big fan of
It just moves on.
We do this
Are
a
you
lot.
talking? Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, we just keep... If not, we have multi-hour conversations about roaches, square cup holders, automatic climate control. Funniest episode we've ever done. I did cry when I was watching it again. You just have to...
Yeah, we're going to rehash all the stupid cup holders.
Long story short, though, I'm a big fan of Warren Buffett. And one of the things that he's done lots of educational videos on investing. Man is brilliant, right? I don't care. I know people have political beliefs about him, this, that, and the other. I don't care about any of that. But when it comes down to investing, the man's brilliant. Nobody can argue that. Lots of money, right? Very smart with money. And he tells a lot of stories, and the first one he ever told is that he always learned never to spend more than 10% of what he made. And he said, when you're in young and you got $10 and you're taking Coke bottles for a nickel and returning them, $10 is a lot of money, and 10 cents is not a lot of money. And then he said, but when you own half a Coca-Cola, $100 billion, 10% of that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money to have in your pocket. And so I've always listened to some of the things he talked about, some of the things he said, and he said the most important thing he had ever realized as a businessman was to make his own decision. And the person he's talking to said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? He said, never let anybody else make your decision. Never let anybody else pressure you to make a decision. Never let anybody else rush you to make a decision, because that's when you'll make a mistake. You have to make your own decision, and you have to analyze the decision before you make it. And the best way to do that is take some time to make the decision. If anybody ever pressures you to make a decision when it comes to money, you shouldn't make that decision right now. You should slow down and think about it. There's a reason they want you to slow down and think about it. They don't want you.
Yeah.
Right? And so I look back at that when he said that, and I'm thinking, man, if I had slowed down a little bit and talked to some other people and really just taken a step back for a little bit, I would have saved myself $10,000.
Hold on, no, we can't close on this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Brandon Dills, I'm going to call him out. So he's asking you, did you tell him he was looking at a building? You guys familiar with Brandon Dills?
No.
Jarhead Diagnostics.
Oh, yeah. I heard of that.
Okay. He decided for some godforsaken reason to get into automotive repair. I tried so hard to discourage him, but Lucas over here, who he actually listens to, is like, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine."
I did not do that.
Did you tell?
I did not do that. I did not. I gave him very, very specific instructions.
Did you tell him to get that sucker inspect that building way before?
But
I've
see,
forgotten
he's very much like me. He got excited.
Yeah.
Right. And we had this conversation. We had a 2.5, 3 hour conversation the other night. And I said, Brandon, of all the times that I've ever made a mistake, I was excited. I saw all these great things that could happen. Right. And I ran into it. And
you see the end vision.
Yeah.
That's all that plays in your head.
Yeah,
you're like, this would be awesome.
So I looked at a building before we decided to build a building. Right. I looked at a couple. And my wife nixed one of them, because one of them was separated out. It was multiple buildings, and that's what we were trying to avoid. We don't want multiple buildings because we have bays on different levels, all this now. We don't want to do that. And so we looked at another building that was a big building, and Rick and everybody else is like, don't do it. Don't do it. This is not right. This is not the right fit. It's out of town. The situation feels weird. Remember, you even told me not to do it. And
I almost never tell you not to do it. Yeah.
Long story short, we go through this process and we're talking to them, and my wife Alex and Rick both are like, nope, no, we're making an executive decision. You can't override us. We're not doing this, right? And when she makes an executive decision, I'm sure you know what that's all about. When your wife makes an executive decision,
she's like, yeah,
there's an executive decision, and that means yes, ma'am. Right?
He's still learning that.
No, I have.
I'm sure you have.
I've learned that. I just nod and smile. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, they nixed it, and they said, we're not going to do that. And so I had not told these people yet. that I wanted to nix it. And they said, hey, we've got all the contracts signed, everything else. We just need you to do one thing first. And I said, what? They said, we need you to talk to the person who owns the property next door, because the septic system's actually on their property and there's nowhere to put a septic system for this. So you need to talk to them first.
Oh,
and I'm thinking, man, if I had not slowed down, I would have gone into that excited. Oh, I can make this work.
And all of a sudden,
that.
you don't have a septic system.
Right. And I mean, the building's useless at that point, you know, and I'm sure you can work some out, but it costs way more than what you thought it was going to. They were probably holding that in their pocket.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so those things start to come out. You don't get the building inspection. You just want the building. You're excited. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And you circumvent every process that protects you. It's just like an evaluation on a car when it comes in the shop, right? We got to go. We got to go. We got to get this work out. The client's in a hurry. Man, they're waiting. It's an oil change. And we don't do the evaluation. Pulls out and the wheel falls off of it. Guess whose fault that is? I didn't take the wheels off of it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
That's me now.
Just in your shop.
Hey.
Yeah.
You know, I think
you're
we
right.
gotta slow down.
I think we have to ask questions, but I think we have to ask the right questions too.
Yeah.
Like for us, when we were going to build our building, we had a structural engineer come in and we said, hey, how's this building looking for the future?
Yeah.
He's like, it's great. I think you got a good another, 50, 70 years, maybe even.
Right.
What we didn't ask is, can we build another building next to it?
Yeah.
And can it still be structurally okay?
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time putting thought and effort and energy in that old building when we just didn't ask the rest of the question.
Yeah.
And I think that takes a lot of extra. But if you're going to be investing, then you have to not just ask questions, but ask the right questions.
Absolutely. And I brought up the 10% thing with Warren Buffett. A 10% mistake is a lot of money. And it can be a big deal.
Yeah. And
it even if it just costs you 10% of what you got, man, that's rough. But when you grow and you get better and you're asking better questions and those little mistakes get smaller and smaller, man, it's a whole lot easier to stomach.
Yeah.
I'd much rather lose $1,000 than $10,000. I'd much rather lose that building that I would love to have as I would lose that building that
wasn't the right one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
what's your official title? Woman Shop Owner of the Year or Female Shop Owner of the Year? What's the official?
Female Shop Owner of the Year.
Female Shop Owner of the Year. There you go.
It says it doesn't want to stream to Facebook. It lost the Facebook stream. Can't believe you did that, David.
Hey, I have a buddy who he was streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube all at once. I need to ask him because I don't think he's using StreamYard. In fact, I did. I sent him a message. He hasn't responded.
Yeah, I wouldn't respond to you either. Guys, thank you so much.
Thanks for sitting here. I know you guys were busy. And
thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, she's Woman Shop Owner of the Year. She's got to
female. We just went over this. Female Shop Owner of the Year.
I'm sorry.
For women in auto care, though. You're
close. It's close.
No. Did you hear through the whole process she had to go through in order to get this?
Listen, we've been at this for 5 days now. 4 days. My mind is like...
I have a tech who is recovering from COVID. He got COVID. He got the kitchen sink. You can look that up on the internet. And he was fine. Comes back to work. First 3 days, he was like a little loopy. But the last 2 days, he was like... And I figured he was fine. I leave, and I start getting messages. He's like, man, I'm just something not right. He goes, I think I got it again. You didn't get it again. You didn't get it again. I'm like, do you have a fever? No. It's like, you didn't get it again. He's like, yeah, but I can't think. So, yeah, I mean, he had to go back on the kitchen sink to get his mind right. And so he's like, he is out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a brain fog.
Yeah.
People get. My mom did.
Yeah. Have you guys had it?
I had it.
Yeah.
After I was vaccinated.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
What vaccine did you get?
Johnson & Johnson. But I talk to people who have all different ones and are also getting it. So I went to Nashville and licked the polls. I didn't really, but I did go to Nashville. I think that's where I got it.
We typically don't talk to David about COVID because it turns into 3.5 hour long podcast that become very controversial.
I'm holding back.
If you need any COVID information, check out Tom Jode on Facebook.
Lots of great information available out there. Lots of great information.
Yeah. It wasn't bad, though. But I
Right.
still can't taste all the way or smell, which sometimes is okay and sometimes it's not.
You know Greg Buckley?
I do. I know who he is. Yes.
Okay, so Greg, wasn't it? He said that
I don't think he was vaccinated, though, was
No,
he? Because
no,
he got
but
it, like, early on.
he said he had like this disorder where things didn't taste like they used to taste
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And so he said that like it's bad, like coffee tastes burnt and like
That's sort of what they, like, my wife, when I had it, I didn't lose my sense of taste. Like, I could still taste things, but everything was, like, overly intense.
That's
So
what
it was
I've
like
heard, too.
super salty or super sweet. My wife, everything was super muted for her. I lost my sense of smell. I just couldn't smell things. But, you know, that it's not the way people say it is. Because I don't know how many people are like, oh, I've had it twice. Like, no, you haven't. And they're like, well, I lost my sense of smell. It's like, yeah, but it's not even that you lose your sense of smell. It's like it's off. Everything's off.
Right.
It's not your normal experience. Did he get his taste back, Greg Buckley?
somewhat. It never like they had him do these things where he had to smell like really nasty things and really pungent things.
So he had almost like retrain.
Yeah, it said it was like
Your olfactory senses, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's great.
Olfactory training. I tried.
Didn't work.
No, I don't think so. Somebody said a burnt orange. I haven't tried it yet.
Burnt orange.
That's what they say.
He hired somebody. Like he had professional help.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
get
well,
it.
he said steaks tasted bad. I would hire professional help too. I mean, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, but you'd think you'd like it. I'm adventurous with food, so I'd just go find something else I'd enjoy
no, see,
eating.
not me. Bourbon and steak. That's what I do. If bourbon tastes bad and steak tastes bad, man, I'm having a bad life.
It's a weird sensation though because it's like you just don't have you can't taste but there's flavor. So like you get the sensation of salt or sour or sweet. So you still
Right.
have that. It's really hard
The
to describe.
intricacies, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point. Like people that have had it speak like you do. People that haven't had it are like, I just couldn't taste things. I couldn't smell things. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You didn't have it. Everybody thinks they've had it twice. However,
I knew it was coming.
no, I'll stay restrained. I'm good. I'll be good.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Honor
us.
to have you here.
Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the ASOG podcast. If you'd like to catch these episodes early, you can do so by becoming a patron. Just go to asog.site and click on the Become a Patron Now button. Becoming a patron helps support the show, gets you several perks, and is tax deductible. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and on YouTube so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot me an email. My email address is david@asog.site. That's DAVID@ASOG.SITE. Until next time.